Somewhere on a lake right now, 3 jet skis are tied up at the same dock, and only one of them has a documented pattern of flooding its own engine compartment through a hose that pops loose, submerging the supercharger and the electronics before the rider even makes it back to shore. One of the other 2 has a supercharger that is legally required by the manufacturer's own service manual to be completely rebuilt every 100 hours or 2 years, whichever comes first, or it can destroy the engine from the inside. And the third is the only personal Watercraft brand that has won the National Marine Manufacturers Association's Customer Satisfaction Index Award every single year since the award began more than 20 years ago. Let's settle this with verified facts. Sea-Doo, Yamaha, Kawasaki. 3 names that dominate every lake, every rental dock, and every dealership argument in the country, and 3 brands riders fight about online without ever checking the actual documentation behind the argument. Today, we go forensic. Real engine architecture. Real documented failure patterns pulled from certified technicians and owner records, not forum opinion. And the verdict that rental fleets and rescue agencies, the people who cannot afford a breakdown with a paying customer or a swimmer on board, have already reached. No brand loyalty, just the verified answer. The lifespan numbers. The number that matters before you spend $7,000 to over $20,000 on a machine is this. What is actually driving the water, and how is it built to survive years of running at 10,000 RPM? Sea-Doo runs Rotax engines built by its parent company BRP, using a proprietary hull material called Polytech instead of fiberglass, which saves weight and, according to the brand, reduces the wear that heavier hulls put on the drivetrain over time. Every Sea-Doo 4-stroke uses closed-loop cooling, meaning the engine is cooled by coolant circulating through a radiator, the same basic principle as a car, rather than raw lake or ocean water passing directly through the block. Sea-Doo also pioneered the technology arms race in this category, and its performance lineup has consistently pushed horsepower and feature sets ahead of both competitors for years running. Yamaha builds its own marine engines in-house rather than outsourcing them, including the TR13 cylinder that powers the Superjet and the 1.9-liter naturally aspirated HO engine, currently the largest displacement engine in any production personal watercraft. Every Yamaha, supercharged or not, uses open-loop cooling, drawing raw water directly through the engine. That is also true of Kawasaki, whose engines and cooling architecture have stayed fundamentally similar on the Supercharged Ultra platform since the early 2010s, even after a full-body redesign in 2022. Kawasaki has the longest history of the 3, having built the first stand-up personal watercraft in 1972, 3 years before Sea-Doo entered the category, and 14 years before Yamaha's first Wave Runner arrived in 1986 as the world's first tandem-seating personal watercraft. The credential that actually separates these 3 on paper is independently verified, not brand marketing. Yamaha Wave Runners are the only personal watercraft brand to win the NMMA's Customer Satisfaction Index Award every year since the award's inception over 2 decades ago, a streak no other personal watercraft manufacturer has matched. Failure points on the water. This is where which one breaks down first actually gets answered, because on a jet ski, the failure almost never starts with the block itself. It starts with the one component built around the block that gets neglected. Sea-Doo's documented weak point sits on its supercharged models, the RXP, RXT, and GTX limited lines. The Rotax 215 horsepower supercharger fitted to these engines requires a full rebuild every 100 hours or 2 years, whichever comes first, confirmed directly in service documentation, because internal components wear at a rate ordinary maintenance schedules do not anticipate. Early 2004 through 2008 models use ceramic clutch washers inside that supercharger that are documented to shatter under load, sending debris into the engine itself since updated to steel washers. owner reports on Sea-Doo-specific forums describe supercharger failures showing up in under 20 running hours on brand new units when a defective part slipped through, and even recent models from the 2016 generation have documented cases of supercharger wheel defects reaching the intercooler under warranty. Naturally aspirated Sea-Doos in the GTI and Spark lines do not carry this specific risk, but anyone buying a supercharged model is buying a mandatory maintenance interval, not an optional one, and skipping it is the single fastest way to turn a jet ski into an insurance claim. Yamaha's documented weak point is electrical, not mechanical. The current generation FX HO 1.8-liter model and later versions of the previous generation FX built from 2012 onward share a documented fuel injector wire and connector issue that shows up across independent Watercraft technicians servicing both generations. It is a narrower, more contained failure point than a full supercharger rebuild, but it is real, it is documented, and it specifically affects two overlapping generations of Yamaha's own flagship engine family. Kawasaki's documented weak point is structural rather than internal. Most Kawasaki jet skis ship without a true electric bilge pump, relying instead on a baler that uses jet pump suction to clear water, which only works effectively while the engine is running at speed, not while docked or idling. That design choice turned catastrophic in a documented 2024 case. An Ultra 310 LX owner reported a hose popping loose from its fitting, flooding the engine compartment and contaminating the oil with water at just 9 running hours, then having the same hose fail again after the first repair, submerging the supercharger and electronics a second time. Separately, Kawasaki's supercharged Ultra 300 and 310 platforms have a documented pattern of piston and ringland damage under boost, specifically tied to poor fuel quality, according to technicians who specialize in rebuilding these engines, an issue serious enough that Kawasaki itself addressed an earlier cylinder head and pump bearing problem on the original Ultra 300 with a running change in 2011. Kawasaki's hull, still built from old-school fiberglass rather than the lighter composite materials Sea-Doo and Yamaha use, is heavier and more repairable, but it does not offset a design that depends on a hose connection staying seated for the life of the machine. What rental fleets and rescue agencies choose? What do the operators who cannot afford a breakdown with a paying customer, a swimmer, or a suspect on the back of the machine actually put on the water? Yamaha's VX series wave runners are the standard choice across the vast majority of commercial rental operations in the United States, specifically because they require fewer repairs and lower maintenance overhead than the alternatives, according to technicians who service rental fleets directly. Yamaha wave runners are also used in organized rescue operations internationally, including Surf Life Saving Australia's fleet of purpose-outfitted rescue units built on the Wave Runner XL700 platform, chosen for reliability under repeated unscheduled heavy use, where a breakdown could cost a swimmer's life, not just a repair bill. Sea-Doo and Kawasaki both see use in law enforcement and lifeguard fleets as well, and Sea-Doo specifically pioneered the industry's first PWC braking system years before either competitor added one of their own, a feature agencies value for close quarters rescue maneuvering regardless of engine brand. But when a fleet operator is optimizing purely for the lowest UN scheduled downtime across dozens of units running hundreds of hours a season, the rental industry's own buying pattern points toward Yamaha first. The engine and hull material are also a line item on resale, and they move the price. Yamaha holds resale value at a consistent premium specifically because buyers know the reliability reputation and the rental fleet track record. And a wave runner with documented maintenance history is rarely a hard sell in any region of the country. Sea-Doo's Polytech hull and broader feature set, including that pioneering braking system, supports strong resale on the performance and touring end of the lineup, but a used supercharged model without documented supercharger service history is a harder sell to an informed buyer who who knows what that omission means for the engine underneath. Kawasaki's fiberglass hull is genuinely easier and cheaper to repair after cosmetic damage than composite alternatives, which helps resale on well-maintained units. But the 2024 flooding case is exactly the kind of story that follows a used market segment once it gets documented publicly and shared between buyers. Run these before you buy. 1. Is the model supercharged? If so, ask for documented supercharger service records, not just an hour meter, regardless of brand. 2. If you are looking at a Sea-Doo RXP, RXT, or GTX Limited, confirm the supercharger's last rebuild date and whether it still has the original ceramic components on units from before 2009. 3. If you are looking at a Yamaha FX HO from 2012 onward, ask specifically about the fuel injector wiring harness and whether it has already been inspected or replaced. 4. If you are looking at a Kawasaki, ask whether an aftermarket electric bilge pump has been installed and inspect every cooling hose clamp personally rather than trusting a verbal answer. 5. What are you actually optimizing for? Yamaha wins on documented reliability and rental fleet proven uptime. Sea-Doo wins on hull weight, innovation, and touring features. Kawasaki wins on hull durability and repairability once you account for its specific weak points. The doc argument keeps going every summer. The documentation already answers it. Sea-Doo's supercharged models punish a skipped maintenance interval harder than almost anything else on the water. Kawasaki's biggest documented failures trace back to a hose connection. The design depends on more than it should. Yamaha is the one an entire rental industry already voted for with its own money. Choose the machine that matches how you actually ride it, verify the maintenance history that matters for that specific engine, and stay on schedule without exception. That decides more about which one breaks down first than the badge on the hull ever will. Subscribe so you do not miss the next deep dive into what actually separates the boats worth buying from the ones worth avoiding.